Step into the ring, YouTube. Middleweight boxer TJ.Braddock is squaring up to give you some more video game reactions. But today, we're going to react to something a little different. We're going to be reacting to video game leaks regarding Bioshock 4 from West Nemo TV. Now, as par for the course for video game leaks such as this, it's often a he said, she said situation because, you know, a small crumb of information pops up out of nowhere, then all of a sudden it snowballs and snowballs and snowballs into something very big to where it gets lost in the sauce, and 9 times out of 10, it's often proven to be fake. So, in this context, I'm going to be going into this video taking it with a grain of salt. But hey, I mean, I'm not gonna completely what's the word? I'm not gonna completely disavow it because hey, I'm always looking for Bioshock 4 because Bioshock is my favorite game to play and to go back to. I own the collection. I beat 1999 mode on Infinite. And as someone who appreciates the vintage steampunk and diesel punk theme, that's why I like the game so much. Plus the stories and world building are pretty great. But hey, we're gonna watch this video, see what the link is, and at the end of the video, I'll give my own little tidbits on what I would like to see in Bioshock 4. So yeah, jab that like button, slug that subscribe button, and no dirty fight down in the comments down below, folks. Love to hear your thoughts. But as stated, any dirty fighting and hitting below the belt, and you are out of here. And with all that said, let's box. Hey everyone, Braddock post-production editor here. Now, unfortunately, my first go around recording this video, apparently the desktop audio did not pick up, so I had to jerry-rig the video's audio into the edit line, so please forgive like in the video like stalls if there's like any like desynced in audio, and again I apologize for any like inconvenience it may cause. I try my best to re-edit in as best I can. So yeah, go support the original video. Let's get back to the reaction.
Bioshock 4 just got huge new leaks, and for the first time in years, we are finally getting new details that actually matter. According to the report, we have new details regarding the character concepts, we have actual images, story elements, and environmental clues, that whenever you put everything together, it really does paint a picture about what this game might be. We're not talking about random rumors, we actually have actual real leaked information according to MP First, that if this is all correct, could give us a good idea about where Bioshock 4 is heading. So we're going to break all of that down today. So without further delay, let's go ahead and dive into all of these Bioshock 4 leaks. Okay, so jumping into the big report from MP First, these are leaked images we have, which they start off on their article by saying Bioshock 4 has become one of those games that it feels like it might never see the light of day, only to suddenly show a faint impulse just when we stop looking. The project has been in development at the studio Cloud Chambers since 2018, yet after all this time, we have had scarce details and not a single frame of official footage.
2018, huh? That's counting up to now. Now that's 9 years. That's 9 years and counting it, if counting just by the number date up to now.
A report from Bloomberg paints a picture of development hell, revealing narrative rewrites that may actually have delayed the launch well past 2027. Take-Two Interactive CEO Strauss Zelnick, however, remains publicly confident about the publisher's upcoming lineup, stating that the game is going to come out eventually, hand on heart, he said. The article then continues on by saying, on a brighter note, we haven't been left in the dark entirely, as we received a few crumbs in the form of leaks. One of these was the reveal of a setting placed in a 1960s Antarctic city called Borealis, Alice, while others have offered a raw glimpse into production, such as the early development image we revealed in our report from last year. They then said, now for the part that you are most likely interested in, we have recently obtained a collection of previously unreleased details about Bioshock 4. These details include planned locations, a look at assets they may reveal, the main villain and protagonist, a brief insight into development, and more. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the information that they provided regarding the setting and the environment details. This is according to MP First, which if you guys want to see the article yourself, you guys can go to their website, mpfirst.com. But the article then continues on by stating, it wouldn't be a Bioshock game without a society on the brink of collapse. Among the things that we've learned from this game, there are a few locations we're bound to see, like the inclusion of a prominent casino. This inclusion makes perfect sense, as we've repeatedly been gambling throughout the series, most notably via slot machines. This time, however, it seems to be on a grander scale, potentially serving as the stage for a major set-piece battle. The report then continues on by
The little postal kid. So we're gonna like get a casino area, huh? I mean, I may be a big fan of the Bioshock franchise, but I'm blanking on like where do we like game? Where do we gamble? Was it 2? Was it Infinite? Oh God, I'm blanking on which game introduced that.
stating, additionally, separate intel points to a specific district or location named Solaria or Solaris. Now, MP First said, while not depicted in the visual assets we've obtained, we've heard multiple mentions of this place along with specific class of individuals known as Solarians. Whether these are elites controlling the city, a faction of enemies, or simply everyday citizens remains to be seen. Now, on the environmental side, we know that snow will play a role in the game's atmosphere. This comes as a no-brainer to those following the reports of an Antarctic setting, but then MP First said that the confirmation of these weather effects suggests that it could be central to the experience. However, beyond the frozen exterior, we also have assets that appear to be early technical tests, confirming the inclusion of a massive canyon-style landscapes. Considering the snow, it will be interesting to see how this is implemented, they said. We can also see assets for cables and machineries that, even though they're nothing mind-blowing, they will certainly help us confirm that the artist's aim is to, retain the stylized look that we've seen in Bioshock Infinite. So the report continues on to talk about the characters, to which they said, perhaps the most exciting for longtime fans is the possible return of an ecosystem similar to the original games. While we haven't seen the word splicer explicitly, we have found references to a specific individual or entity labeled as the male flusher, and while their role is unconfirmed, we speculate that these flushers could function as this city's equivalent to the splicers of Rapture. They then said, furthermore, we've heard about the possible return of the Atom.
Oh, okay. I mean, that's interesting. So they are definitely gonna lean into the big casino gambling theme. Like, from what we gather so far from what's been stated in the video, it's setting in the Antarctic, so everything's gonna be cold. It's gonna rely very heavily on a casino theme, so we can expect a lot of RGB elements, and yeah, and then there are these blushers. So I'm assuming that these are going to be like card suits. Like we'll have a spade, we'll have a club, a heart, a diamond, and I'm guessing elites will be like the name of the suits cards, like a three of a kind, a royal flush, a straight flush, and aces. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm just like talking some things that are heavily related. At least what he's been saying so far. So who know? But who knows?
or the acquired derivative epidural matter, and they said they heard about the return of it in some capacity. This substance from the first game is known for granting superhuman abilities to its users and for causing addiction with its overuse, which fuels the hypothesis of crazed citizens roaming the city again. MP First then said, as for who could be pulling the strings from behind the curtain, we have obtained images of a striking golden statue depicting a stern male figure. He is shown with arms raised high in the Atlas-like pose, a stance that clicks into place when viewing the third picture, which is displaying 3 of these identical figures hoisting 3 world-like spheres to support a massive central globe structure overhead. They then said, considering the detail put into these elements of the statue, like the facial features and the hairstyle, we theorize that it's supposed to represent the game's central antagonist, which just follows the series' long-standing tradition of villains who are venerated by their own cities, much like Andrew Ryan in Bioshock or Zachary Comstock in Bioshock Infinite. They continued by saying, now that we have seen the villain, you might want to meet the hero. They said, well, if you've been paying attention to the pics featuring assets, you might notice that along
Also, I want to like quickly go back and see like this villain here we go. Okay, it looks like they are going to, because from what I can see from this statue, it looks like they're gonna like it looks like this thing is taking inspiration from Frank Fontaine when he spliced himself with Heavy Adam. Like he was like the true final boss from the first Bioshock. So getting some very like Frank Fontaine vibes from this statue. And who knows? Maybe we'll see like a fight. Maybe like the final fight of this game will be like similar to Frank Fontaine.
Inside the rocks, there's a small character placed there as a scale reference, which could be the first look at our main protagonist. The figure appears to be a man clad in a sharp gray suit and tie, fitting perfectly with the mid-century aesthetic that the series is known for. They then continued on by saying, of course, we cannot rule out the possibility that this is just merely a placeholder for the standard NPC rather than the main hero. However, his sharp attire bears a striking resemblance to the Booker DeWitt archetype, and the fact that this was a specific model that was chosen to demonstrate the environment's scale certainly raises our eyebrows. The article closes by saying, unfortunately, it's known that getting to this point hasn't been easy. Our sources corroborate reports of a turbulent development cycle, specifically citing a difficult period in 2022. And now that we know that the project is undergoing narrative changes, it's hard to predict how much has changed from the iterations of the game that we've seen here. They said, hopefully, despite the rewrites, the interesting details we've glimpsed here in the core DNA of the series will make the final cut. Now let's talk about where Bioshock 4 actually stands in development, because this is not really smooth sailing behind the scenes, at least from what we've seen so far. Bioshock 4 was officially announced all the way back in late 2019, with 2K Games confirming Cloud Chamber Studios was developing the next entry, but since then there have been a lot of ups and downs, mostly downs as far as production goes. Early on, fans were expecting this thing to be, out sooner than it has been, which, we still don't know the release date, obviously. And according to the latest, sources have indicated that the game failed in an internal review at 2K. At least that's what we heard like a while back ago. That was back in 2022, but here's what's been reported like overall. There were narrative rewrites. They, reportedly caused delays back in 2022. There was leadership shakeups that took place at Cloud Chamber. And at one point, delays pushed back to, a supposed 2026 or 2027 release timeline. And then of course there were layoffs that hit the team, and veteran developers were, brought in to steer the project, which that all kind of paints a picture of a project that is not only ambitious, but it's struggling to find its footing in the post Ken Levine era of Bioshock. To put it simply, Ken Levine was the creative force behind the original trilogy, and without his direct involvement, the team at Cloud Chamber is essentially having to define a new identity for the series while trying to keep what fans love the most intact. One big piece of context comes from, Take-Two CEO Strauss Zelnick, who, he said this recently: Bioshock 4 is going to come out, that I can say hand on heart without question. Which I think that quote matters because when a publisher talks about a, long-awaited game like this, it means that they're still committed at the highest level. There's sometimes fear in the community that a troubled title could be canceled, but with Bioshock 4, Take-Two Interactive is firmly saying that that will not happen. I think the big takeaway about the development status is this game is still in active development, and we've seen all of this information that just came out regarding the, location, the story, concept, and the characters and whatnot. It's faced some setbacks and major rewrites that pushed the timelines, but that's pretty much it. We are still going to get Bioshock 4, which I think that's exciting alone. When that's going to happen is, kind of the question we have to answer. Which in a way, that is the $1 million question that fans want answered. When will Bioshock 4 actually release? Well, here's what we know and what we don't know right now. First, there's never been like an official release date announced by 2K, not even a release window was confirmed publicly. Now, industry reports suggested that internally Bioshock 4 was once, was slated for a 2026 late or early 2027 release, but due to internal rewrites and setbacks, that timeline is no longer realistic. Now, could they make some stuff happen to get it out by, late 2027? That's possible. There have been some leaks and, job listings that have hinted at a game that is still early to mid development, but none of that is like, official confirmation of a date. PC Gamer also allegedly pointed out that changes in leadership and narrative overhaul likely means we're still years away from even knowing a release date, which is, that's a bit unfortunate. So what can we actually say with confidence? One, we do not have a public release date yet. Internal sources have pushed it back to, way past the 2027 mark, but Take-Two Interactive is committed to the project and have said so publicly that it will release eventually, hand on heart. So with that information in mind, I would say that a late 2027, possibly 2028, and if they needed to lay it more, a 2029 window would line up with how, most AAA titles take to develop their games, especially after major rewrites. But for now, that is just speculation. Let me know when you guys think it's going to release. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe with the noties on, and until next time, this has been Wes, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video.
Oh, all right. That was very informative. I mean, despite with what scarce information that we still have, that was a lot of information. I mean, also, like, excuse that jump cut, the video just suddenly just stalled, and I had to make sure it's like gets to rebuff. So yeah, so let's recap. Now, for what's stated in the video, it's slated that this fourth installment of Bioshock 4 is slated to take part in the Antarctic region. Now, cold climates in Bioshock ain't new. There was a segment in Infinite where one of Elizabeth's like reality warping tears that we entered. There was a cold climate where we went face to face with the Void of Silence. So cold climates aren't new to the Bioshock entry, but whether or not this will like take place in the ocean near the Antarctic Circle, or much like in Infinite, a tear of Columbia where it was filled, or passing over the Antarctic ice circle, I don't know. But from what's been stated, it sounds like this area is reminiscent of a concept art of the fabled Half-Life 3. Now, is it gonna look like this? No, but it's definitely like painting that mental image of it looking like it. Also, we're slated to have not splicers, but flushers. So this game is going to heavily lean towards like the casino gambling aspects of the mid 1900s. It's going to take place, or at least the prominent place is going to take place, in a big casino area. And while we're not going to technically have splicers, we're going to have flushers. Well, it's all just more variants, because from the sounds of it, the flushers sound like the common variant. There's also like no word on like what are like the big daddy equivalents of flushers, or at least whatever they're called. Are they like going to be like bouncers or some form of security detail? Who knows? I mean, heck, we don't even, as I said once before, we don't even know if this is going to take place in the Antarctic portions of the Atlantic Ocean. But hey, I mean, we're just going to have to wait and see. Now, on the fence of it having a late 2027 release date, I'm going to be quite skeptical and say that it's probably not going to be it. But hey, if Team Fortress 2 managed to complete its 7th comic and get a prominent epilogue release, then maybe there's hope for a 2027 release date. But you know what, I'm gonna at least just cross my fingers to say it's true. Now, from what I would personally want to see in the game, I'd like to see a more expansive character building system. Like, we can still keep with the whole Booker DeWitt archetype as shown in the video, but I'm hoping we're able to expand our character more. I mean, heck, we don't even need to start with the Booker DeWitt archetype. We can start as a Flusher or the Big Daddy equivalent, or heck, we can probably just start as what would be the game's equivalent to a handyman from the Infinite game. I mean, I don't know, it's just my own personal preference. Also, I'd like to see a more expansive combat feature. You know, just give it some more freedom for takedowns and how are we gonna defeat bosses and all that. You know, just given more unchained combo restriction. I mean, I don't know what's the best word to describe it, but hey, that's the best way I can put it. So yeah, I mean, those are my thoughts on what I would like to see in the game. I know it's not much, but hey, you guys would probably give a much more detailed description if you want down below. So yeah, jab that like button, slug that subscribe button. Let's have it verified down in the comments below. Let me hear your thoughts, folks. Thanks again for watching this with me, and I'll see you next time.